I see that Gallo had his luggage with him there in the back of the car there, just to make sure he had something to eat when he got around. Interesting.
Yeah, this is going to be exciting to see how it all breaks down. So it's a 10-lapper here. It's a rolling start for the drivers as well, which should spread the field out relatively evenly down towards that first corner, which would be quite handy because I imagine it's going to be a big difference in stopping distance compared to the Red Bull X 2019s, of which they qualified.
Yeah, there's a lot of different weights and powers here. Some cars absolutely rapid in a straight line, some very light as well. So we're going to see a real mix down towards T1, and I have no idea which way this is going to go. But that's why Nations Cup is so much fun.
Absolutely. Well, there is Kylian Drumont as he just takes a breath, as well as Valerio Gallo, the hometown hero, with so much pressure on his shoulders, lining up P7 on the grid here. An opportunity for him to move forward and secure a good grid slot ahead of the grand final in the Nations Cup. But who wins this one then as we get ready to go racing? The sprint race here at the Sardinia road course is underway, with Serrano leading the field across the line, followed by Kylian Drumont, who slipstreams his way into the lead already as we come in towards the first corner. Keep an eye out for Moreno as well, who's looking to his outside. Miyazono there on the inside in fourth position as well. So it's Drumont that leads, Serrano into second, Moreno into third, Miyazono and Cockburn trying to squabble for places, as well as Paul Ura making some ground. He's up 2 from 8th on the grid into P6 at the exit of turn 2.
Here comes Moreno up the inside maybe of Serrano, going into the middle part of the circuit now, side by side the Ferrari and the DB3, just about keeping them out the door of each other. I'm just hoping they don't hit each other here. I mean, I know, of course, these cars are virtual, but there's something in me which is like, man, there's a lot of money on this grid right now. As you watch Moreno just about stay ahead of Serrano. Drumont, though, in that 550 Spider, a lot of pace in that thing. Very quick in the straight line, very light, and maybe that was the car of choice around here.
Yeah, the drivers who qualified higher up the order got first pick, basically, at the cars for this one. So, if you, for example, if you were Jose Serrano, you got first pick, and second for Kylian Drumont, etc. So that's the way that he's gone with it. Drumont it is that still leads by 0.3 of a second. Battle for P2, though, very much underway, because you've got Moreno side by side here with his compatriot Jose Serrano, and take the front of the race over from the Frenchman.
A little bit of contact there between the two of them, but that's just racing around here. Of course, these cars move around quite a lot in the braking zone, so it's quite hard really. The slices working their way through the S's. Now to one of the heavy braking zones here. Now these cars really lazy on the brake pad. We've got to give it a lot of time. You see Moreno going a bit wide, Drumont going a bit wide, Serrano was up the inside there in the Aston Martin, and we get a great view alongside the onboard the 356 with Takuma Miyazono, of course, someone who's won this Nations Cup outright before. He's been pretty much every position on the podium as well, so knows how to win a race here. In the background is Gallo there, making a mistake, touching the wall there in the Mercedes and just slowing himself down the straight. You see, even these little kinks are quite considerable corners for these cars.
And look at what it's done to him. It's left him right under pressure from the likes of Ryota Cockburn and the prevailing field as well. They're about a million wide down this start-finish rate. Gallo's got the inside line, but he's going to drop 3, maybe even 4 places here as he's down to P10. He was 7th before he made that mistake across the line. So it's all changing at the sharp end of the race as well, because Takuma Miyazono it is that now leads from Samuel Moreno. How did that happen?
I think we're too busy watching Gallo there having his incident, and Miyazono took advantage off camera, and up he goes there in that very pretty little Porsche. So up to first place goes Miyazono from Moreno from Ura. Where's Serrano? Serrano is down in 9th position, so something must happen there to Jose Serrano.
Yeah, you'd imagine there must have been a bit of contact which has sent the Spaniard tumbling down the order, which is not great at all. Let's wait and see what happens. Yeah, Drumont and Serrano under investigation for a collision, so you wonder whether one of them is outbraking themselves and nerfed into the side of the other. We'll wait and see what happens. I'm sure we'll get a replay, especially if any penalties are awarded. Either way, at the sharp end, it's Miyazono now from Moreno and Paul Ura, who's elevated himself up 5 places. So what happened here between Drumont then and Serrano? So they split Moreno down into turn 1. Drumont's on the inside, Serrano there as well, and they just there was a bit of contact on the exit of the corner. So Drumont's dropped down and Serrano also losing out in the process.
Yeah, very tricky there. I think they just got caught out by the lack of straight line speed there from that 550. Sorry, no, it was Moreno, from the Ferrari. So they just ended up going each side of each other. But meanwhile, Miyazono leading from Ura and from Moreno. 2 Spaniards hounding this car. This is where we're going to see a difference in the straight line speeds here. Gallo, interesting, has made his way back up to 5th at his instant on the first lap. Here's on board with Takuma Miyazono, how he went from 4th to 1st in one corner. So we're going to get down on T1. Moreno just slows down that car, runs out of acceleration. They'll have their accident, and Miyazono goes, well, thank you very much, mate. I'll take that. up to lead I go.
Problem with Serrano there is he's on the outside, and you're always leaving yourself vulnerable to situations like that. De Bruyn's picked up a penalty for a collision there as well. He's in P4 as it stands, but will drop down the order, you would imagine. Top 3 looking to try and break away in all the chaos that's unfolding. We begin lap 3 with Miyazono still in front from Moreno and Ura. So good starts to the race then, as we said, for Moreno and also for Pol Ura, as well as now Kai De Bruyn. De Bruyn, though, as we said, with that penalty, he's going to surely drop down into the coattails of Valerio Gallo, who, let's not forget, a couple of laps ago was 10th across the line after he lost out following that mistake, and he's now managed to get his way up into P5 with a nice comfortable cushion over Serrano behind.
Yeah, I mean, of the front-running cars, you wouldn't put really Gallo in that Mercedes in the same bracket, would you? It's a big old thing, but it seems to be running well in 5th position. Miyazono still leading this train up front. And I do enjoy these races where we see the different cars and different strengths and weaknesses. It's very Gran Turismo for me. It's what the game's all about. As watching Moreno now maybe make a move on Miyazono. We know that Ferrari runs that off top-end speed a little bit as we get up to the braking zone. Miyazono managing to hold him on the outside now, and you see putting back past. And that's going to be a bit of a difficulty for Moreno. But he's got the brakes. Up the inside he goes, and up into the lead goes Moreno. So you're seeing the differences there. Moreno's car much better on the brakes in the corner, and Miyazono having that straight line speed advantage, but you have to wonder which is a better one to have. Right,
let's have a look here at Kylian Drumont, who's attacking against Guy Barber and Jose Serrano. Oh, more contact there down to turn 1. He's way too late on the brakes and biffs it into the back of Adriano Corazzo. The Barber then gets into the side of him. The C's part for the Spaniard as Serrano goes through on the inside, and Drumont just looking like he forgot the pedal. Phenomenal.
Oh, sorry. I mean, I've made that face a million times. I'm like, oh, oopsie. But, it happens. Like, this is what I was saying about the brake pedal. Like, it's the braking distances are so much longer in these older cars. It can catch you out. It really can, especially when some of these cars are better than others. And we're seeing now Miyazono absolutely rocketing by Moreno as he's just stuck there in 5th gear, nothing else he can do. No more top end speed, but then on the brakes he's right back there again, and so is Pol Ura there up on the inside. Pol Ura in the 8C Touring, and man, doing it in style is Pol Ura.
I love seeing Pol Ura coming through on the inside. He looks like he's an LA gangster or something in that blacked out machine as he scythed his way through on the inside. Said, hello, there we are. Gets the position on his compatriot and is through for 2nd position as well. Look at the top 3. They've managed to build up 3.5 seconds over the prevailing field. De Bruyn and Gallo are the next targets, and they're a fair chunk down the road. This is good for Valerio Gallo and possibly his grid position for the grand final. He's now all over the back of De Bruyn, who's just served that penalty following the contact that we saw.
But watch this straight line speed of this Mercedes compared to the D-Type in front. I mean, bear in mind, there's about 20 years between them in terms of age, but Gallo there just showing, well, here we go, choo-choo, thank you very much, mate, off I go, I've got another 20 or 30 horsepower on you. It's only got 4 gears, though, I think. No, I thought he only had 4 gears there, but it's over 200 kph in something from the 20s. Not something I like to do, and then trying to outbrake a D-Type into the braking zone. Big shout from the crowd there as Gallo gets it done up into 4th position. So he'd be a bit upset, I think, Gallo, because that first group has broken away, and I think realistically, unless he has a really good run now, he's going to struggle to catch him, as Serrano also recovering in the background there. But 4th place isn't a bad start.
No, 2nd row of the grid for Valerio Gallo at the moment as Kylian Drumont picks up a penalty for that collision that we saw a couple of laps ago. Meanwhile, all change at the front then as Pol Ura is through for the race lead on Takuma Miyazono. So again, this story continues changing. And let's see whether we're going to get a breakaway here, because Pol Ura trying to build out a gap. What he'd love is Moreno and Miyazono to start fighting. But the straight line speed of the car that Ura's in there looking pretty handy as it stands for now.
It does, but Miyazono also in that Porsche, again, very, very quick down the straights is that little mini Porsche there. So up the inside, outside I should say, goes Miyazono in the 3.56, going to have a little look. Oh, there goes Moreno too, so yeah, there really is a top end for these cars. Maybe they run into the limiter in a certain gear. It's so interesting to see as Gallo has to defend from De Bruyn there in the background, just about doing so, I think. But Miyazono, Moreno and Ura covered by only 4/10 of a second right now, and seemingly with no one blinking. On board with Pol Ura. Look at this beautiful interior in this thing, man. The craftsmanship in here. All of that being thoroughly ignored right now, while Pol Ura just wrings the neck out of it, which is exactly what you want to see in these races.
Just to give you an idea, by the way, of getting these cars into Gran Turismo, it's a very much an expedited process. Takes an awfully long time. There's thousands, tens of thousands of photographs that have to be taken of each individual car. That's not including, of course, sourcing those cars in the first place. Then, of course, it's got to be scanned in the game, and it takes such a long time. So the level of detail is absolutely phenomenal. Meanwhile, Moreno, not worried about the detail of the interior of his car. He is worried about the race lead, though, as he goes through on Miyazono once more, uses the advantage there of the slipstream. So that's good news for him. But I think it's going to leave him vulnerable again coming onto this next straight, isn't it? That's the problem with that Ferrari. So he's got to make up time on the brakes, but the question remains, if we get to the latter half of it and when we go through to those final couple of laps, is he going to be in a position to attack for that race lead, or is he just going to run out of puff?
I don't really know. I mean we've seen that the Moreno, I think he just gets past the start-finish line and the car starts to give up a little bit. So Miyazono's got to be close and have a good move. So because the Ferrari's good here, out of the corner. See, it's got really good punch out the corner. It's light, it's nimble. But about now to get into fourth gear, the Porsche, which is also light and pretty powerful as well for what it is, starts to reel him back in, plus the draft as well. So let's get a little dress rehearsal. Let's pretend it's the last lap. The start-finish line's under that little gantry there. Would Miyazono make it? No, not quite. So that's good for Miyazono to know. Like, if I need to be closer than that on the last lap if I want to win this race. So those little moves like that, it's all part of the game.
Guy Barbara's having a good one as well. He's up into 7th position from near enough last on the grid. He was P11 where he started, so he's worked out quite nicely for the Australian driver. You see Samuel Moreno's pre-race ritual, taking a full nap and waking up just 20 minutes before qualifying. That's the Kimi Raikkonen strategy.
Well, it's working so far. He's fighting for the lead here in one of the most prestigious sim racing events in the world, so you can't argue with that, can you really? I mean, here's Miyazono, Moreno and Ura all on your screen there. You're seeing the picture-in-picture of Serrano working his way back up from 6th. He is catching Gallo, I think, but not by enough at the moment. Actually, at the moment, fast person on track is Moreno, the only man to go into the 159s. So a lot of pace up front right now.
On board here we are then with Valerio Gallo. All on the outside there, De Bruyne directly in front of him. This is where we know that Mercedes is quite strong, and it might leave De Bruyne vulnerable here to an attack from the Italian driver. The crowd are going to absolutely love this as he sends his way to the inside. Over the crest of the hill we go, into the braking zone. Gallo is through for now on Kai De Bruyne, but is De Bruyne going to be able to use the nimbleness, the agility of that Jaguar to try and launch an attack? Look at how much better it is mid-corner in particular. Just can get that car rotated and turned so much tighter.
I mean, what do you expect? You could fit one of those in Gallo's car. Like, it's a huge difference there. In fact, I'm surprised Gallo got out of the way if he could even see him going down the straight there. Here is Kai De Bruyne. Here's his POV. All he can see is Gallo's luggage there. Wonder what he's got in there. I mean, that's maybe a question for the live chat. Have fun with that, moderators. So Kai De Bruyne trying the outside line there, but Gallo just parking it. You don't want to be there. There's a barrier waiting to collect you on the outside there. And I mean, Gallo doesn't really have a choice but to park it, to be honest. That thing's so heavy. Yeah,
it's interesting to see the different peaks and troughs. It's like watching a good revival race this, where you've got certain cars that are quicker in the corners, others which are quicker in the straights, and you can see visibly how much the advantage is there for Valerio Gallo as he just pulls away with ease from Kai De Bruyne. This is Guy Barbara in P7 at the moment. Cockburn and Benelli close behind on these battles on the fringes sort of the top 10. Cockburn looking to try an attack here on Guy Barbara, just gets out of the throttle, goes for the outside line on the curb. We know that's brave. Can he make it stick though as they run side by side with each other? So the Mercedes there on the outside. Barbara has the inside, which is going to flick back to the inside line there for Cockburn, but Barbara's not giving this one up. He's still parking his car very much in the places where Cockburn would like to. Down the back straight we go, into the left-hander. Barbara manages to hold off the charge for now, but it could open the door possibly for Lucas Benelli behind if they keep squabbling here.
Oh, Cockburn's going to get it. He's been there side by side the entire time there, just trying to set himself up, but now, of course, he's on the outside for the next corner. There's Benelli there as well as we come in. Next corner's the left-hander. Guy Barbara just alongside enough to maybe keep the move, and Cockburn, can he? No, he can't. They're now running side by side, and Benelli behind's loving this. He's right there now in that Mercedes, and they've got their straight line speed. They're going to shove their way past Guy Barbara, and Cockburn up to 7th. Will Benelli be able to maybe mug Cockburn as well in a straight line in the draft as well? These guys side by side at 200 kph. Braking zone coming up. It's a left-hander. Barbara's got the advantage. He's going to try and split the two of them. Benelli's looking at the outside. That's not going to work, mate. And Cockburn finally is clear of Guy Barbara, and that all started at T1, putting the car around the outside. Beautiful racing from these guys.
Superb, absolutely superb. Some of the cleanest battles we've ever seen in the GT World Series in some of the hardest cars to handle. Cockburn into 7th place there, but Barbara not ready to give this one up. He's surely going to launch an retaliation if he can. Down the back straight, not going to be close enough for a move on the inside as it stands for now, but Benelli there, ready for the taking as well. Keep an eye out for the likes of Samuel Cardinal actually there in the background. He's not too far adrift of this one. Meanwhile, part 3 with Kai De Bruyne versus Valerio Gallo. De Bruyne managed to get ahead then of the Mercedes driver. So the Jaguar now going to come under threat, and surely Gallo is going to just absolutely fire his way through as we come down into T1 with the straight line speed. But no, not quite for now. De Bruyne holds it off, uses the weight advantage, and gets into 4th position in front of the Italian driver.
Can you imagine being in that D-type, looking in your mirror and seeing that behind you down the straight? I would just be terrified. I mean, the size difference is almost comical. But watching also Valerio handle that thing, hustle it through these corners is a sight to behold, for sure. So Gallo there in the Mercedes in front of them, Kai De Bruyne in the D-type. With that little fin on the end there, basically used to stabilise the car at high speed. Very cool to see that these cars being raced in this way. And this is where we see the Mercedes have its advantage. The D-type is pretty quick, but on the straight line speed, the raw engine capacity of this Mercedes-Benz just gives it a bit more oomph. And here we go then, to the outside goes Gallo once again. This battle's been going on for the entire race, and he just tries to drive around the outside. Now will Kai De Bruyne try and break late here and keep the place? He does. They're alongside here, and Gallo's really got no option but to just give it to him at this point. He hasn't got that cornering agility.
Yeah, just can't get the car stopped. It's heavier on the brakes there, and obviously the brakes just clearly nowhere near as effective as Kai De Bruyne, but the punch and the power out of the corner there for Valerio Gallo just allows him to get greater speed, and he just goes through on Kai De Bruyne like the Dutchman was standing still. Meanwhile, sharp end of this race, Miyazono, Moreno and Euro, we've not mentioned them for a few laps. They're still separated by a couple of tenths of a second. I'm sure we'll pick that up over the last couple, but Gallo into 4th place for now. Sure, we've not seen the last of it though.
Oh man, look at these two. You couldn't have 2 more different cars fighting each other, and that is just, for me, the joy of Gran Turismo. You see both of them have a bit of smile on their face there. He's like, whatever, nothing I can do here. That's just part of it. That's part of having these different cars in this Nations Cup event. Every session matters. The qualifying session to pick these cars matters. This session matters. Of course, the grand final dictates everything else. And there goes Kai De Bruyne, past Gallo again, and on board there, about 5.5 metres of bonnet or hood in front of you there, and a nice big aiming reticle in the Mercedes AMG 3 stars there.
Yeah, you got him quite literally in his sights. Yeah. Meanwhile, sharp end of this one, Moreno now in front from Miyazono, so it's 2 Spaniards with a Japanese driver in the middle of that sandwich. Through the left, through the right, they've been nose to tail for the last few laps of these drivers, and you would imagine that it's going to start to kick off before too long. Euro there has a bit of a look to the outside of Miyazono, who goes for the sort of shallower inside line down the back straight, but then ducks over to the more traditional racing line. This race, just to remind you, determines the grid position for the grand final in the Nations Cup, which will be along the way in the not too distant future. Under the bridge we go though. Is Euro going to think about launching an attack here on Takuma Miyazono? He pulls alongside the Porsche driver and just backs down to the throttle, gets out of the slipstream. Of course, Miyazono has got that hole in the air being punched in front of him by Moreno's Ferrari as well. And it's as you were as we come into the braking zone, or is it? Because Euro finds a gap on the inside. Miyazono pushed to the curb on the outside there, and Euro tried to launch something on the exit of the corner, but the circuit there, as you can see, just jinxed right, and he runs out of room to do it.
Man, that Alpha there in 3rd place giving me solid Mr. Burns vibes. It's so cool to watch, but I have to think they're just waiting. They're just waiting, because I think Miyazono knows that if he's close enough here, he can win the race just from here, just by hitting the gas. And Paul Euro, same sort of thing. That Ferrari isn't the quickest, but they've given themselves an 8 tenths buffer to Moreno in front now, so they've got to be careful here. They can't fight too hard, otherwise Moreno is just going to get away with it. And we know that Ferrari in front is good for the twisties. Here is Miyazono, here is Paul Euro. Let's see how close they get down towards T1, and whether Moreno can build a gap or not.
So, on to the last lap we go. I wonder if there might be a bit of tactical gamesmanship here from these drivers, as Miyazono then goes for the outside line here on Samuel Moreno. Jura there on the inside. Gap has appeared for the Spaniard. Moreno off nearly to the curb on the outside. It's as you were between these top three. But of course, we're going into Monza, let's not forget. It's a slipstream race. And I wonder if the option might actually be to start from second position, so you've got the run going out of the first chicane. Not that these drivers are going to be worrying too much about that. I think they're having too much fun at the moment. Moreno still leads as we come through to the right-hander.
Well, what's happening now is that basically, I mean, you see Moreno's parents there watching on quite nervously, is they're all, Miyazono and Jura are both fighting for the right to have a go at Moreno on that last corner. So they both want to be ahead of each other. But they've got to be careful here, because if they end up knocking each other off the circuit, that gifts this win and pole in the final to Moreno. So we got on board with Paul Jura now. Here's really his last chance to get ahead of Miyazono before the final corner. But here's where that Porsche starts pulling, and here's where that Ferrari starts lacking. You see Miyazono opting to actually slow down there. Moreno goes defensive. Will Jura go around the outside of all of them? He's going to try and do it, but I don't think he's going to make it. Miyazono and Jura side by side. Paul Jura, he does make it around. He's got the ideal line here, but they're 2 by 2. Oh my word, Tom, and Jura is through up into P2.
Phenomenal bit of driving there from Paul Jura as he goes into second position. Next target is his compatriot Samuel Moreno then. So we flick it through into the left-hander. Just one more big braking zone now remaining as we're right on board here with Miyazono, who fancies another attack against Paul Jura. Don't know if they're going to be close enough to lunge up the inside of Moreno. Jura has a half look, but Moreno's got the line covered off. It's now going to be a run to the line here in the sprint race to determine the grid for the grand final. Moreno, Jura and Miyazono is your order as they exit through the final corner. Out of the right-handed kick we're about to go, and we're going to blast to the timing line here. Will it be Moreno, will it be Jura, or will it be Miyazono who takes the checkered flag? It's out and waving, and which of these drivers will come across the line? It's Samuel Moreno who takes his first ever win in the Gran Turismo World Series on his debut, ahead of his compatriot Paul Jura, and Takuma Miyazono rounds off the podium in third, ahead of the hometown favourite Valerio Gallo in Milan, in P4, on the grid for the grand final.
Yeah, Gallo narrowly beating Kaiser Brunstein. In the background there, it's 3 wide for 8th position. Guy Barbara just taking it there from Bonelli and Drumont. So amazing battles up and down the field, but what a mature race there from Moreno.
Series in 2026 here in Milan in front of quite possibly the loudest crowd we have ever had, and this is an opportunity for manufacturers and for drivers to get their names on the scoreboard for the first time this season. Let's have a look and remind you how the grid is going to line up here at the Nordschleife. So it's Jose Serrano, reigning champions Porsche, on pole position. Maximilian Kroll for Ferrari lines up on the front row. Nissan and Mikołaj Sejak lining up at the head of the second row, with Mercedes and Jack Boulding making his debut in P4. Then it's BMW Samuel Moreno in P5 with Lexus and Antonio Santos 6th on the grid. Next up is Mazda and Polyura. They struggled, didn't make it through into the top 6 shootout with Hafidi and Volkswagen alongside. Then it's Audi, Kylian Drumont, new manufacturer for the Frenchman. Toyota have got Benjamin Hengse behind the wheel for this season. Subaru's Callum Moxon lines up P11, and 12th and last on the grid is Miroslav Kravchenko for Lamborghini. Now, we know, of course, tyre strategy is something to mention in this one. The top 4 going for the medium tyres. Nobody opting for softs at the start of this one.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that people feel the need to use them at this point. We know it's a short-lived tyre, that Dunlop soft tyre, so I think maybe at this point it's just let's feel it out. You know, those who are at the back of the pack, I think, are maybe just hoping that they can make their way through, but there's no big strategic plays there, which means all the action, all the overtakes are going to have to happen on track.
Yeah, it certainly is, and you can see there, this is the calm before the storm now, really, for these drivers. They're sat there in the rigs, and I guarantee if we had a heart rate monitor on them, they would be beating out of their chest, because despite the fact that we've got some very experienced drivers in the GT World Series, that pressure, that tension, it all comes down to the performances out on track, and they know that this is the first opportunity for them to go well, really, to get those points on the board, to start their season off in the right way and to hopefully help their teammates with the opportunity. Let's see what happens then as Manufacturers' Cup 2026 begins here at the Nordschleife. Jose Serrano leads the field across the line, followed by Kroll, followed by Sedjak and Balding, etc. Then the hard-shod runners of Moreno will be in the background. Let's see what they can do as we come down the Dottinger and head in towards the left-hander as we go over the rise. Will we see any changes for position? Because it's a very long straight, and look at that already, because you've got Sedjak attacking against Maximilian Kroll for second position. We flick it through the left-hander. Kroll does manage to hold on to P2 for now, but at the front of the race, it's Jose Serrano that leads for Porsche.
Yeah, really surprising to not see any big position changes there, given the nature of the run down to, well, what was Garbenkopf now, as we come backwards and sort of make our way slowly towards the Bell Fest. We're on board with Moreno in the BMW right now, and to be honest, at the moment, there's not really anywhere to overtake for this section. Just try and get close to the car in front. At the moment, Balding and the top 4, a little bit of a gap, and that's because they're on that medium compounder tyre. They're going to have a pace advantage early on in this race, so the closer Moreno and the rest of the hard runners can stay to the medium shod drivers, the better, as you watch Sedjak now in third position behind Kroll. Always been very quick in that Nissan GTR, but 6 laps here at the ring, it's going to be a challenge for even him.
Certainly is. On board we are then with Jack Balding as we flick it through this left and then the right-hander through the forest, but in the opposite direction. On board we are now here with the British driver, and as we said, qualifying is one thing. Doing it under racing circumstances, though, is completely different. You can see we're now rising up the hill as opposed to at this particular point when we would be dropping down it. Just a point to mention, by the way, whilst we're on the opening lap of action, we are experiencing a technical issue with the PlayStation account and GT7. It means the viewer campaign isn't working at the moment, but it's a work in progress. You can still watch and claim the gift even after the stream has ended. You've got a couple of weeks, so don't panic if you can't watch it from your PlayStation 5 at the moment. We will get that sorted and you will be rewarded as a result of it. But Jack Balding there, still in 4th place, still pretty static at the front of this race on this opening lap.
Yeah, I mean, we're coming up now to what will be probably one of the overtaken zones. It'll be the run down towards Bergwerk after the carousel here. Let's see if these guys can get through here better than I did. They can, what a surprise.
It's almost like it's their job.
Yeah, it almost is. Yeah, very difficult way to put the car in there. Like I said, you're under a lot of load coming downhill there, and it's very easy just to get it wrong on the way in as we now come down towards what will be the mud curve at the bottom here. There is Serrano leading away. The gap up to almost a second, so he's almost getting out of slipstream range, which is a good indicator that the pace is there for Serrano and Team Porsche. Although I've got to say, Moreno and Santos there, the hard runners in the BMW and Lexus, doing a good job to stay within touching distance too. So that hard tyre maybe a bit improved over what it was last year.
I suppose that's the name of the game, isn't it, really, when you're on that hard tyre at the moment, is damage limitation, really. If you can stick with the medium shod runners as best as you can. I mean, 6 laps doesn't sound like a long time. Here at the Nordschleife, as we said, about 45-minute race duration, all being well for the drivers. So those who are on the hard tyres, all from 5th place downwards, they've just got to make sure they keep in touching distance of the cars in front, and they will be in a good position come the end of it, because, of course, they'll have quicker tyre compounds to run, in theory. So looking at Sedjak then, sitting in the wheel tracks here of Maximilian Kroll, and Sedjak, as I said, finished on the podium in Berlin last year. the Polish driver. Let's see what he can do here for Nissan. They are the 2023 Manufacturers' Cup champions. Ferrari, they've never won a Manufacturers' Cup title. Last time they were on the podium was back in Prague in 2024.
Yeah, Sejak getting very close there in the GTR, but this is where you have one of the challenges of driving around the ring here. It's just where do you pass? And when you do, you have to really, really throw it in. So here's Polyura. Bad qualifying for him, put him down in P7 for Team Mazda. What happened to him? Oh, just wide there, onto the grass. I'd love to tell you what corner that is, but I've got no idea from this perspective. And down to P9. So it goes to bad to worse. Actually now in P10 is Polyura. So really having a bad start to this race here this season in the Manufacturers' Cup for Team Mazda. Meanwhile, we go back on board with Sejak, and both him and Kroll, I think, have closed up a little bit onto the back of Serrano now. So Serrano maybe not as quick as we first thought there, or maybe these guys keeping a little bit extra in the tank. But Sejak now really starting to push Kroll along. I think he's starting to get a little bit impatient, Tom.
Yeah, exactly. We're coming in towards the first traditional Nürburgring circuit, the second half as we look at it. Let's have a look at Jack Bolding, Maximilian Kroll, and also Mikołaj Sejak at the start of this race. And as this is coming down into the Dottinger Herd, you can see side by side there between the Ferrari and the Nissan. Sejak looking for that move on the outside, but Kroll just about managing to cover him off at this particular point. We cross back to live racing action then here. So Sejak it is that's still in third position. He hasn't managed to find his way through on the German driver for now, but as you say, certainly signalling a statement of intent here, because he's all over the rear wing of that 296.
And Serrano now also back into it. So I thought maybe that this would be an easy run for Serrano, but the top three really close now, and Sejak is starting to get a little bit impatient. Where do you pass it on this version of the circuit? I think maybe you can have a go up here. If you've got a slipstream, you see Kroll there pulling out to try and not being on the draft for whatever reason. No BOP to try and hide here, but then now it's just free press. Look at this, look how close this is after almost a lap here of the ring, coming now down down the hill. Speed's really high at this point, and now you have to try and pick your braking point. You're braking uphill here, so you can brake quite late, but really easy to overdo it and end up on the curbs and then end up in the wall, like we saw Polyura did earlier on in the lap.
Wouldn't mind being in Jack Baldwin's cockpit at the moment. He's got box office seats to this trio of drivers in front of him as it stands for the time being. The top three, as you can see, separated by just about half a second or so as they head towards the end of this first lap. Now I wonder if we're going to get the hard shod runners coming in at the end of lap one and going on to either the medium or the soft competitive tyres. That might be our first time we'll see a divergence in strategy as Sejak just brushes the grass on the outside there.
Mate, you don't get away with that very often at the ring, I tell you that. So Sejak there doing well to keep the car pointing the right way, and now we come back onto the GP circuit. So this might be traditionally the best place to pass if you're close enough. But you see Kroll and Serrano already sort of eking the gap out a little bit from Sejak behind. Balding is still there or thereabouts behind, so the top four all have pulled away, unsurprisingly, on that softer compounder tyre, the medium, softer than the hard compounder. I know what I'm saying. It's a medium compounder tyre. And Moreno there leading the hard tyre runners. So, of course, all tyres must be used, the medium, hard and the soft, and that will come into play a bit later on. Now, we use the cut through here, not the full GP circuit, which is a really tough corner from this angle, because on the exit, the road falls away from you. You can end up going off into the grass on the outside. So there is our Dunlop tyre strategy down in the bottom left-hand corner there. The soft tyre, we think, only good for one lap, and these mediums only for two. So Serrano's only going to have one more lap of pace at the front before having to choose which way to go.
Absolutely, and we have seen drivers bucking the trends of that in the GT World Series pretty much ever since day dot, so let's wait and see whether that strategy will prove to be the one that they'll follow, or whether we'll see anybody coming in at the end of this pit lane. Don't think it'll be the case for the medium tyres, because of course they're quicker than the hard shod runners that are out on them at the moment, so we'll come across the line. Serrano it is, of course, that will still lead with Kroll and Sejak, so they blast past the pit lane and head down towards the Dottinger Hill. We're coming towards the end now of this first lap. The gap to Moreno, the first of those hard shod runners, up to nearly 5 seconds, so you can just see how different it is in terms of the pace over the course of this lap, because especially where it's one at a time and there's all these medium speed corners, you're just eking out a tenth here, a tenth there, and that gap has built up quite significantly as we come to the end of that first tour here.
So here it is, probably the second opportunity to overtake here. A huge straight. Here comes the slipstream in action. Looking back there from Serrano, that Ferrari already starting to catch in the slipstream there. We'll have just a little bit extra, a little bit less air resistance. So the car now putting up to the back of the rear wing. Maybe he's close enough. Serrano is very heavily defending the inside here, but it might not matter. There goes Kroll, maybe up into the lead. Yeah, just about up into the lead goes Kroll in Team Ferrari. So all it took there was a long straight, and now the home favourite, Team Ferrari, up into the lead, but only for now. Serrano is now glued to the rear end of that Ferrari, and we know he's not going to let him get away.
I tell you what, it does make things interesting though, because the Döttinger normally it's down halfway down that straight, really. You see moves being made, but it's right towards the end of it, so you have to have a lot of commitment, especially going